In this video, you'll learn a powerful worship keys chord progression that you can use in any key underneath your pastor while they're speaking, during times of prayer, or altar call. Let me play this progression for you, and then I'll teach you how to play it yourself. So now that you've heard this progression, I'm going to teach it to you. I played it in the key of D. We'll put the chords and the numbers on screen as I walk you through this progression so that you can play it in the original key, or you can use the number system to play it in whatever other key you would like. Now I've got this patch called Heart Chaser open in our Sunday Keys main stage template. That's what you heard just a second ago as I demoed this progression. I really love this sound. It's nice and ambient. There's a pad and sort of an analog ambient bell sound in there, but you could use this progression with a piano and a pad or an electric piano. And I'm going to use an electric piano sound to walk you through the two parts of this progression. We'll go a little slow, talk you through the shapes, and I'll explain a little bit of how I might use these in a live context as we go along. So I'm going to start off by bringing down this pad. We'll bring up an electric piano sound. So it just sounds like this. So the first portion of this progression is based off of thirds in the right hand. That's sort of the melody that carries throughout. So I'll play it for you a little slow. And I'm going to strip out most of the chord stuff in the right hand so you can just hear that melody, which is always a third above the bass note. So it's a nice, simple melody. It lands on the major 1 chord, so it's got a pretty positive, hopeful, uplifting feel. So this is great for times of prayer, for altar call, for playing underneath your pastor while he or she is speaking. And with that simple melody in the right hand, you can make it a little bit bigger or smaller based on the other notes that you stack or layer with that right hand melody. So if you need it to be really sparse, you could just play the 1 and the 5 in your left hand, and that melody note on top. Or if you needed to add a little bit more energy, you could beef up those chords. And then you can do a little bit of hinting and moving around that melody as well if you want to give it more of a moving feel. So there's a lot you can do to embellish this simple little idea, but the important thing is that at its base, it sounds hopeful, it sounds optimistic, and it's not too complicated, so it's not going to distract. So that's what I'd call the A portion of this progression. And I always like to have something that I can move to that has a slightly different feel. So here we're going to go down to the minor 6. This is going to sort of be a drop in emotion. It's going to feel a little bit more serious. There's going to be some tension there until you resolve back to that A progression, which lands on the major 1 chord. So let me play that for you. There's also a little lift in the right hand as you're going to sort of space out your playing a little bit. And you're also going to hit some lower bass notes in the left hand. So this is a little more of an open feeling part of this progression. And then when you go back to the original progression, it's sort of a nice moment when you land back home at the 1 chord. So I'll play this for you a little bit slower. So like I said, we're on the minor 6 now at the beginning of the progression, but there's a lot of themality and commonality between this part of the progression and the A section, because most of the melody is still just a third above whatever the bass note is. Now we're thickening it up by playing octaves in the right hand and oftentimes throwing the 5th in there, but if I take all that away and just play the 3rd, you'll hear how similar it is as far as its composition goes to that A progression. Now when we land on the 5 chord, the A, that's the only real move away from that theme because we play the 5 instead of the 3. And this is just a decision I've made, that because I think it sounds nice to have that little walk down in the melody in the right hand. If you wanted to, you could play the 3rd, or you could dance back and forth between the 2. But the important thing is that this B part of the progression follows much of the same form in how that melody moves compared to the A progression. So even though the chords are different, it still feels familiar. So while people might feel the progression change, they won't so much notice or hear it. They'll just sort of feel the difference in what you're doing. And folks, when you're working underneath somebody who's speaking, you want to make sure that you're supporting and not distracting whatever that person is saying. So making sure as you move from one part of a progression to another that it's not a huge out of nowhere jump is a great piece of advice. So that's why I love these 2 bits of the progression together. I hope that you'll take some time to get comfortable playing this chord progression. If you use it at church, be sure to leave a comment and let us know how it goes. We'd also love to hear from you in the comments with your favorite chord progressions. What's your go-to during a time of prayer at your church? Leave a comment, let us know, and we may even shoot some videos featuring your chord progressions. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss our next Worship Keys tutorial. Have a great day.